details. It's probably more than one. Yep. So those are the things that we've been talking about, and you guys talked about it a little bit last week, so this should be worked right into what you've been working on, okay? All right, so, like I told you last week, we are starting a new book, okay, for reading. It's called A River Ran Wild, and it's by Lynn Cherry. Lynn Cherry is the author and the illustrator. Who can tell me what that means? The author and the illustrator, Elijah?
They wrote the book and the picture.
Perfect, good job. Okay, this is a non-fiction book. It's a true story. And it is going to describe to us the way that the Nashua River came to be the way it is, okay? So the Nashua River is in an area of the United States called New England. So who can tell me where in the United States is New England? Are the New England states? Think about it. Turn to your Think Fair Share partner, whisper to them. Okay, where are the New England states?
On the East Coast?
On the East Coast, more specifically, where are they? Kevin?
Northeast.
Northeast, okay, so what is an example of a state in that area that we can maybe make a reference? Cameron? Maine, good. What's another one? Tyson?
New York.
New York, okay, what's another one? Kaylee?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, good. Okay, so do we all have the idea of where this is on a map?
Yeah.
Perfect, good job. Okay, so here is a picture. You guys might have to scoot, I'll walk through so that you can all see it, but this is a picture in the 1500s of the map. Okay, so this is when Native Americans lived in this area of New England. Okay, girls, thank you. So who lives in this area of New England, Nevaeh, at this time? You want to pass? Somebody help you? Okay, Becca? Okay, Nevaeh, who is it? Very good. Native Americans lived in this area during this time period, 1500s, okay? This map is the 1900s, okay? So this is a little more developed. So I'm going to walk around and I want you to look at these two maps, and more specifically, the Nashua River is up in this area, okay? So right up here. And I'm going to walk around and I want you to see if you can find some differences between the two maps, okay? I'll come back. So specifically, we're looking at the area of the Nashua River, okay? What looks different? Can you see? What looks different between the two maps? Remember, this one in my right hand, this would be to your left, is in the 1500s. And this one in my left hand, or on your right, is in the 1900s. So we're talking 400 years difference. You can raise your hand if you have something that's different. What do you see? Kaden, did you get a good look at it?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you see that's different? Okay, so in the 1900s, Kaden says that we have New Hampshire and different colonies. So I see words that look like New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Cape Cod. Okay, so those things are not on this map. Kaylee, what else?
I don't know if it means anything, but in the 1500s, there's no yellow by the river, right there.
Okay.
And the other is right there.
Ah, very good observation. What can we infer that means? We see different colors on the land. Nevaeh?
The climate could have changed because it got drier.
Okay, could be the climate. Good. Kevin?
Indian population.
Population. Okay, those are all things that could be on there. Geneva?
It could be the height of the land, like lower or higher.
Bingo, you got it, very good. So I think that color right there is talking about, it's showing us the difference in the land, okay? So all those things you listed, we do see maps with those things on it. But more specifically, this map is probably not talking about that. It would tell us, okay, if it were. Very good, all right. So this book, what did I say it was, nonfiction or fiction?
Nonfiction.
True story or not a true story?
True story.
True story, very good. Okay, I am going to read this book to you. I'll show you the pictures when I'm done reading the page. But remember, we are talking about our ice cream cone this week. So what do you think I'm going to ask you to pay attention to? Okay, very good. So that's what I want you to listen for while I read the book, right? Awesome, here we go. Long ago, a river ran wild through a land of towering forests. Bears, moose, and herds of deer, hawks, and owls all made their homes in the peaceful river valley. Geese paused on their long migration and rested on its banks. Beavers, turtles, and schools of fish swam in its clear waters. One day, a group of native people searching for a place to settle came upon the river valley. From atop the highest mountain, known today as Mount Wachusett, they saw the river nestled in its valley and a silver sliver in the sun. They came down from the mountain, and at the river's edge they knelt to quench their thirst with its clear water. Pebbles shone up from the bottom. "Let us settle by this river," said the chief of the native people. He named the river Nashaway, river with the pebbled bottom. So what does Nashaway mean? Good. You're listening. Good job. By the Nashaway, Chief Wheela's people built a village. They gathered cattails from the riverbanks to thatch their dwellings. Turn your think, pair, share partner and whisper to them, what do you think thatch your dwellings means? Okay, so what would you infer? You know what dwelling? Okay, I'll read it to you. Here's the sentence that it's in. They gathered cattails from the riverbanks to thatch their dwellings. Okay, a couple more seconds. Okay, what do we think? Thatch your dwellings. What does it mean? Kaylee?
Build.
Oh, did you know that? Good job. Yes, thatch your dwellings means to build a home, but more specifically to build a home by using sticks. Okay, so there a lot of people, a lot of Native Americans built their homes by using sticks for the walls. Okay? In the forest, they set fires to clear brush from the forest floor. In these clearings, they planted corn and squash for eating. They made arrows for hunting and canoes for river travel. When the Indians hunted in the forest or caught salmon in the river, they killed only what they needed for themselves for food and clothing. They asked all the forest creatures that they killed to please forgive them. The Nashua people saw a rhythm in their lives and in the seasons. The river, land, and forest provided all they needed. All right, take a second. I want you to think about what have you learned about the river valley so far in what I've read? Okay, think about what you've heard. What have you heard about the river valley? Turn to your think, pair, share partner, and I will give you 15 seconds to discuss. Go ahead. Something that's useful. Okay, good. What'd you turn around and tell us?
They're building dwellings.
Kevin's gonna join you guys. Okay, very good. What did we hear? What have we learned so far about the river and the valley? Isaiah?
The river, river valleys usually have a river that goes straight through the valley, but on each side there's tall hills, so you're kind of concealed in.
Okay.
So you can just be by the river, and animals usually go there because they're more protected and they can.
Yeah, very good. Good job, Becca.
It like produces things that the Native American use because it has like water and plants and the animals for food, shelter, and to drink.
Very good. Good job. All right, so they are using quite a bit of resources from the Nashua River. Okay, here's a picture.
What is the river's name?
Nashaway is what Chief Wioa named it.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
Nashaway. It does
Nashua.
sound like Nashville a little bit.
Then they changed it?
So Nashaway, and now we're gonna keep learning about, because yes, the name will change, so you have to listen close for that.
Okay.
Okay, all right, here we go. The Nashua people had lived for generations by the clear, clean, flowing river, when one day a pale-skinned trader came with a boatload full of treasures. He brought skinny metal knives, colored beads, and cooking kettles, mirrors, tools, and bolts of bright cloth. His wares seemed like magic. The Nashua welcomed him, traded furs, and soon a trading post was built. In the many years that followed, the settlers' village and others like it grew, and the Nashaway became the Nashua. The settlers worked together to clear land by cutting down the forests, which they thought were full of danger, wilderness that they would conquer. They hunted wolves and beaver, killing much more than they needed. Extra pelts were sent to England in return for goods and money. What is a pelt?
The skin.
What'd you say, Anna?
The skin.
Yeah. Of what?
Of the animal.
Of an animal, yes, you got it. Animal skins. The settlers built sawmills along the river, which the Nashua's current powered. They built dams to make the mill ponds that were used to store the water. They cut down the towering forest and floated tree trunks down the river. The logs were cut up into lumber, which was used for building houses. The settlers built fences for their pastures, plowed the fields, and planted crops. They called the land their own and told the Indians not to trespass. Hunting land disappeared as the settlers cleared the forest. Indian fishing rights vanished, and as the settlers claimed the river. The Indians' ways were disrupted, and they began to fight the settlers. The wars raged for many years, but the Indians' bows and arrows were no match against gunpowder. And so the settlers' rifles drove the Indians from the land. Through 100 years of fighting, the Nashua was a healthy river, sometimes dammed for grist and sawmills, but still flowing wild and free. Muskrats, fish, and turtles still swam from bank to bank. Deer still came to drink from the river, and owls, raccoons, and beaver fed there. Okay, think about in your head again, what else have we learned in the last couple pages that would be important to know about the river and the river valley? Okay, just think for a second. Make sure you have something in your head. Okay, now turn to your think, pair, share, and tell them what we've heard in the last couple pages. All right. Okay, very good. Did anybody have anything to share that you've heard? Nevaeh?
That the Indians got thrown away from because of the settlers.
Yes, and what were they doing? Why did they get drove away out of their land?
Because the settlers had guns and they had bows.
You got it. Is a gun any match for bow and arrow?
No.
It is not, unfortunately. Isaiah, what else?
It was kind of about the weaponry though. Like with the weapons, the guns that they had didn't take time to really do, like didn't really take time to shoot, but with bow and arrows, they had to take a little longer, and
picture. Okay. At the start of the new century, an industrial revolution came to the Nashua's banks and waters. What does industrial revolution mean? Have you heard that before? Andrew, what do you think?
Industry, they're getting new thing that kind of skyrocketed.
And what was a new thing? Close, yes. Probably before that, though. You're on the right track. Who can add to Andrew's? Andrew, you want to repeat what you said? Okay, so he's talking about electricity. Andrew said that something skyrocketed. Something just really took off during this industrial revolution. What do we think that is? Destiny?
Building houses.
Building houses. Okay, that's a good idea. I think there's something a little more important. What can we add? Becca?
Like kind of using the Nashua rivers, like water currents and electricity.
Okay, so we're all on the right track. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what. Okay, Tyson, you want to add something?
Light bulbs?
Light bulbs?
No, that was
Not quite.
That's
That's a little later. But, okay, we're all on the right track. So the Industrial Revolution was a period in which change happened that machines and factories took off. So Andrew was absolutely right that something took off and skyrocketed and became more popular during this time period. But it was machines and factories, because before they had machines and factories, who had to do the work in the fields?
themselves.
The people themselves. Okay, they had to do the work with their own hands. They didn't have combines. They didn't have tractors. They had their hands and horses and plow animals. Okay, so this is the time period that those factories and things like that really took off. Okay, so they started to become more popular. Many new machines were invented. Some spun thread from wool and cotton. Others wove the thread into cloth. Some machines turned wood to pulp, and others made the pulp into paper. Leftover pulp and dye and fiber was dumped into the Nashua River, whose swiftly flowing current washed away the waste. These were times of much excitement, times of progress and invention. Factories along the Nashua River made new things of new materials. Telephones and radios and other things were made of plastics. We talked about electricity. They need those for those new things. Good job. Chemicals and plastic waste were also dumped into the river. Soon the Nashua's fish and wildlife grew sick from this pollution. The paper mills continued to pollute the Nashua's waters. Every day for many decades, pulp was dumped into the Nashua, and as the pulp clogged up the river, it began to run more slowly. What do they mean by pulp? Are we talking about like what's in your orange juice?
No.
Okay, what are we talking about? It is waste. Okay, so it's coming from the factory, but the pulp is actually ground up rotten wood. So pulp can be used to make paper. So that's why we say we kill a tree when we use too much paper. Okay, so paper comes from wood and from trees. But the rotten wood that doesn't get used for paper, that's what they were putting into the river. Okay, and it said they had some dye on it, so maybe some colors. So this is what the river was starting to look like. Okay, so it's turning colors because of the pollution. Okay, all right, keep listening. As the pulp decomposed, bad smells welled up from the river. People who lived near the river smelled its stench and stayed far from it. Each day, as the mills dyed paper red, green, blue, and yellow, the Nashua ran whatever color the paper was dyed. Soon no fish lived in the river. No birds stopped on their migration. No one could see pebbles shining up through the murky water. The Nashua was dark and dirty. The Nashua was slowly dying. Turn your think, pair, share. What have you learned in the past couple pages? Lots of important information. Okay, good. What did we hear? Who has something they can tell us? Geneva, what do you think?
That the settlers have made a bad choice and now the river has no wildlife or anything in it.
It's killing off the fish and the wildlife because of this pollution. Okay, very good. Nevaeh, what else can you add?
In addition to Geneva's, because the machinery and factories are coming up, the pulp, the leftover of the paper, is getting thrown into the river because they have nowhere else to put it. And then it's turning colors and animals won't stop to pick through.
Very good. Anybody have anything else to add? Should keep reading. Becca?
That when the pulp, like Nevaeh said, they put colors that made it smelly, so then like
Oh, there's a smell.
close to it, because then it decompose and kind of lose like the
Absolutely. Isaiah?
Is it like this is kind of on what they should have done instead? They could have burned it or made it into artwork or something.
They could have used it. They didn't need to put it right in the river, did they?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good job. One night, Oyana, a descendant of Wiawa, who still lived by the Nashua, so these are the Native American, okay? Native Americans that originally found and named the Nashua River, okay? Had a dream so vivid that he awoke in a wide-eyed wonder. In his dream, Chief Wiawa's spirit returned to the river and saw it as it was now, still and deadly. Chief Wiawa mourned for the Nashaway, but where his tears fell upon the dirty waters, the waters were cleansed until the river once again flowed freely. The next morning, Oyana went to speak to his friend Marion. When he told her of his dream, she said, "I had this dream also. River with the pebbled bottom is the name Wiawa gave it, but today no pebbles shine up through the Nashua River's waters." Together, they decided something must be done. Marion traveled to each town along the Nashua. She spoke of the river's history and of her vision to restore it. No longer do we have a river. It's a stinking, smelly sewer. But it wasn't always this way. People listened and imagined a sparkling river full of fish. They imagined pebbles shining up through clear waters. They signed petitions and sent letters. They protested to politicians and showed them jars of dirty water. They convinced the paper mills to build a plant to process the waste. They persuaded the factories to stop dumping. Finally, new laws were passed and the factories stopped polluting. Okay, another time, turn your think, pair, share. Think of the important events and the important things we've heard so far in the last couple pages. Lots of important information.